Do you ever find yourself trapped in the past, replaying old mistakes and regrets, wishing you could rewrite history? Are those memories holding you back, stealing your joy, and making it impossible to move forward? Welcome to Buddha's Odyssey, your journey into timeless wisdom and inner peace. In today's episode, we'll uncover how Buddhist teachings can help you break free from the chains of painful memories, heal your heart, and fully embrace the present moment. Together, we'll explore a profound story from the Buddha's time, one that proves how even the darkest past can be transformed. We'll also dive into practical steps to overcome regret, find inner peace, and cultivate mindfulness in your daily life. By the end of this episode, you'll feel empowered to reclaim your happiness and walk the path of self-compassion and transformation. Number 1. The story of Angulimala. In the ancient land of India, during the time of the Buddha, there lived a man whose name would send shivers down the spines of everyone who heard it: Angulimala. His very existence embodied fear and chaos. He was no ordinary man. He was a feared serial killer, notorious for his relentless murders. Yet, this story is not one of eternal damnation or hopelessness. Instead, it is a testament to the incredible power of redemption, transformation, and the potential for good within every human being. Angulimala's story did not begin in darkness. Born as a Himsaka, which ironically translates to the harmless one, he was a kind and intelligent boy, raised in a loving family. His parents saw great potential in him and sent him to study under a revered teacher. Ahimsaka excelled in his studies and became the star pupil, admired by his peers and trusted by his master. But life took a cruel turn for Ahimsaka. The very virtues that made him stand out, his intelligence, discipline, and devotion, stirred jealousy in the hearts of others. Driven by envy, his fellow students began spreading lies about him, whispering poison into the ears of their teacher. These false accusations eventually convinced the teacher that Ahimsaka was disloyal and dangerous. In a twisted bid to rid himself of his supposed threat, the teacher devised a sinister plan. He ordered Ahimsaka to collect 1,000 human fingers as a symbolic offering. Trusting his master's authority, Ahimsaka obeyed, embarking on a path that would transform him into the feared Angulimala, the man who wore a garland of human fingers around his neck. As Angulimala, he became a force of terror. He roamed the forests, preying on travelers, brutally killing them, and severing a finger from each victim to add to his garland. His reputation spread far and wide, and the mere mention of his name instilled dread in entire villages. People avoided the forest at all costs, and even royal soldiers feared crossing his path. Angulimala seemed unstoppable, consumed by the darkness that had overtaken his soul. His descent into evil was not born of malice but of misguided loyalty and the manipulation of those who should have guided him with wisdom. Angulimala's life of violence seemed destined to continue unchecked until one fateful day. The Supreme Buddha, Gautama, having heard of Angulimala's deeds, decided to intervene. While most would avoid such a dangerous man, the Buddha chose to walk directly into his path, armed with nothing but compassion and wisdom. When Angulimala saw the Buddha walking calmly through the forest, he was bewildered. Here was a lone man, unarmed and unafraid, entering his domain. Seized by his violent instincts, Angulimala rushed toward the Buddha, intending to add him to his tally of victims. But something extraordinary happened. No matter how fast Angulimala ran, he could not catch up to the Buddha, who seemed to glide effortlessly ahead of him. Exhausted and confused, Angulimala shouted, "Stop, monk!" The Buddha turned to him and spoke calmly, "I have already stopped, Angulimala. It is you who must stop." These words pierced through Angulimala's rage and confusion, reaching the depths of his heart. For the first time in years, he paused to reflect. "What do you mean, monk? You say you have stopped, but you are still walking. Explain yourself." The Buddha replied, I have stopped causing harm to living beings. I live in peace, free from hatred and violence. But you, Angulimala, are still caught in a cycle of harming others. It is time for you to stop." These words mark the beginning of Angulimala's transformation. In the presence of the Buddha's unwavering compassion, Angulimala saw the truth of his actions and the suffering he had caused. He fell to his knees, overwhelmed with remorse. "What should I do?" he asked, his voice trembling with guilt. The Buddha extended his hand, offering not condemnation but a chance at redemption. "Come, Angulimala. Leave this life of violence behind and follow the path of the Dhamma. Through practice and dedication, you can purify your mind and find peace." Angulimala accepted the Buddha's invitation, renouncing his life as a killer. He became a monk and devoted himself to the teachings of the Buddha. Under the guidance of his compassionate teacher, he practiced meditation, cultivated mindfulness, and worked tirelessly to overcome the karmic consequences of his past actions. Angulimala's journey was not easy. The weight of his past haunted him, and many people refused to forgive him, seeing him only as the monster he once was. Yet, he persevered, drawing strength from the Buddha's teachings. Over time, his sincere efforts bore fruit. He achieved enlightenment, becoming a shining example of the transformative power of wisdom and compassion. His story spread throughout the land, inspiring countless others to believe in the possibility of change. Angulimala proved that no matter how dark one's past may be, it does not define the future. With the right guidance, effort, and intention, even the most broken lives can be rebuilt. The story of Angulimala teaches us a profound lesson: your past does not define who you are. Mistakes, no matter how grave, can be overcome. Through mindfulness, self-reflection, and the guidance of wise teachers, anyone can transform their life. Number 2, the nature of painful memories. Painful memories often linger in our minds like unhealed wounds. They reopen whenever we revisit them, causing emotional distress and preventing us from moving forward. This is not just a metaphor but a psychological truth. When we relive past experiences of regret, failure, or trauma, we re-trigger the same emotional pain as if it were happening all over again. It's like scratching a physical wound that delays healing and sometimes makes the wound worse. The Buddha's teachings provide a timeless perspective on this. He once said, "Do not dwell in the past, do not dream of the future, concentrate the mind on the present moment." This wisdom highlights that clinging to the past is a self-imposed prison. The more we focus on what has already happened, the more we disconnect from the present moment, the only place where life truly exists. So why painful memories persist? Painful memories persist because our minds often attach significance to them. If only I had done this differently, or why did this happen to me? This mental loop keeps us stuck, unable to see beyond the pain. From a Buddhist perspective, this attachment is a form of dukkha suffering that arises from clinging to impermanent experiences. Imagine a person who was deeply hurt in a relationship. Each time they think about the betrayal or heartbreak, they relieve the anger, sadness, and frustration. Over time, these emotions become a part of their identity. Instead of seeing the memory as a fleeting experience, they let it define who they are. I am someone who was betrayed, or I am a failure in relationships. This identification with the past becomes a barrier to personal growth. The Buddha's teachings offer practical steps to break free from the cycle of regret and painful memories. While the wisdom may be ancient, its application is profoundly relevant in today's world. Here are step-by-step actions to overcome regret. 1. Acknowledge mistakes without judgment. The first step is to face the painful memory without judgment or self-condemnation. Many people either suppress their regrets or dwell on them endlessly, punishing themselves for past mistakes. Neither approach is healthy or productive. Instead, the key is to acknowledge the mistake as a part of the human experience. Buddhism teaches that imperfection is inherent in life. Mistakes are natural, and they happen because we are human, not because we are inherently flawed. When you acknowledge this, you begin to separate your actions from your identity. You might have made a mistake, but that does not mean you are a bad person. Practical exercise. Sit quietly in meditation and visualize the painful memory. Instead of replaying it with self-criticism, observe it as a detached observer. Say to yourself, "This is a memory of something that happened. It does not define who I am today." 2. Reflect on the lessons learned. Every painful memory carries a hidden gift, the opportunity to learn and grow. When you reflect on your past with a clear mind, you can extract valuable lessons that help you navigate the present and future. Take, for example, someone who lost a job due to poor performance. While the initial reaction might be to wallow in regret, a reflective mindset would ask, "What can I learn from this experience? How can I improve my skills or approach to prevent this from happening again?" The Buddhist teachings remind us that life is a continuous cycle of learning. Failure is not the opposite of success, it is a stepping stone toward it. Practical exercise. Write down the memory and identify 3 lessons you can take from it. Focus on actionable insights. For example, I need to communicate more clearly in my relationships. I should prioritize my mental health to perform better at work. I will approach challenges with more patience. 3. Focus on positive actions in the present. The most powerful antidote to regret is action. Instead of being trapped in the past, redirect your energy toward positive actions in the present. The Buddha emphasized that the present moment is where true transformation happens. By focusing on what you can do today, you reclaim control over your life. For example, someone recovering from a failed relationship might choose to focus on self-care, build new hobbies, or strengthen friendships. These positive actions create a sense of progress and help shift attention away from the past. Modern example. Consider a man named Mark who lost a significant amount of money in a failed business venture. At first, he couldn't stop replaying the decisions that led to his failure. But instead of letting regret consume him, he decided to focus on rebuilding. He started a smaller business, applying the lessons he learned from his mistakes. Over time, his new venture thrived, and he often reflected that his earlier failure was a necessary step toward his ultimate success. Practical exercise. Set small, achievable goals for the present. Focus on actions that align with your values and help you move forward. For instance, spend 15 minutes meditating each morning. Take a step toward a career goal, such as updating your resume. Volunteer for a cause that gives you a sense of purpose. 4. Accept that healing takes time. Healing from painful memories is not an overnight process. Just as a physical wound requires time and care to heal, so does an emotional one. The key is patience and consistency. Each time you resist the urge to dwell on the past and instead choose to focus on the present, you are moving closer to emotional freedom. Buddhism teaches the concept of Anicca, or impermanence. Everything, including pain and regret, is temporary. When you embrace this truth, you realize that the intensity of your painful memories will fade over time, especially if you stop feeding them with attention. Practical exercise. Whenever a painful memory arises, remind yourself, "This is temporary. I am stronger than this feeling. It will pass." 5. Practice gratitude and self-compassion. One of the most effective ways to overcome regret is to cultivate gratitude for the present and practice self-compassion. Gratitude shifts your focus from what you have lost to what you still have. Self-compassion helps you treat yourself with kindness, just as you would a close friend. Practical exercise. Start a gratitude journal. Each evening, write down 3 things you are grateful for that day. Repeat affirmations such as, I am worthy of love and forgiveness. I am doing the best I can, and that is enough. Imagine a young woman named Sarah who went through a painful breakup. At first, she was consumed by regret, constantly revisiting conversations and wondering what she could have done differently. This mental loop drained her energy and made her feel stuck. One day, Sarah stumbled upon a guided meditation inspired by the Buddhist teachings. She learned to observe her thoughts without attaching to them. Gradually, she started practicing mindfulness, journaling her feelings, and focusing on self-care. She took up painting, something she had always loved but neglected during her relationship. Over time, Sarah found joy in the present moment. Her breakup became a chapter in her story, not the definition of her life. Painful memories are a part of life, but they don't have to define us. By acknowledging our mistakes without judgment, reflecting on lessons learned, and focusing on positive actions in the present, we can heal and grow. The Buddhist teachings remind us that the past is gone, the future is uncertain, and the present moment is all we truly have. Number 3. Mindfulness. The human mind is a vast landscape, capable of creating immense joy but also deep suffering. One of the core principles of Buddhist psychology is that our suffering often arises not from external circumstances, but from how we relate to our thoughts and emotions. The Buddha taught that we do not need to eliminate our thoughts but rather learn to observe them without attachment. This ability to watch our mental activity as it arises and passes is a cornerstone of mindfulness. Mindfulness is the practice of cultivating awareness of the present moment with acceptance and without judgment. In the context of painful memories or regret, mindfulness allows us to step back and observe our thoughts as transient phenomena rather than truths that define us. Imagine your mind as a vast, open sky. Thoughts, emotions, and memories are like passing clouds. Some are light and pleasant, while others are dark and heavy. The key to healing is to recognize that you are the sky, not the clouds. The clouds may obscure your view for a time, but they are impermanent and will eventually drift away. Here are 3 practical exercises for you. 1. Find a quiet place and sit comfortably. Close your eyes and take a few deep breaths. 2. Begin observing your thoughts as if they were clouds in the sky. Label them gently. This is a thought about regret, or this is a memory of pain. 3. Avoid engaging with the thoughts. Let them float by without clinging to them. 4. When you notice your attention wandering, gently bring it back to your breath. This practice fosters detachment, reducing the intensity of painful memories over time. One of the most liberating teachings of Buddhism is the principle of Anicca, or impermanence. The Buddha emphasized that all things, whether they are thoughts, emotions, or experiences, are impermanent by nature. This truth can be both challenging and profoundly comforting. It reminds us that just as joy and success are fleeting, so too are pain and regret. When you reflect on impermanence, you come to understand that no matter how deeply you feel a certain emotion today, it will not last forever. Painful memories may resurface, but they will eventually lose their power if you stop feeding them with attention. Here is a guided reflection on impermanence. Sit quietly and reflect on a moment of joy or sorrow from your past. Ask yourself, where is this experience now? What has happened to the intensity of that emotion? Recognize that just as those feelings faded, so will the pain or regret you feel now. This understanding helps us accept life's ups and downs with greater equanimity and reduces our tendency to cling to what has already passed. Let me share a story of a man named David, whose journey from despair to peace illustrates the transformative power of mindfulness and mindful living. David was a successful entrepreneur who built his life around his thriving business. He poured his heart and soul into his work, often neglecting his health and relationships. Then, one year, an unexpected economic downturn wiped out his company. Devastated, David lost his income, his sense of identity, and his confidence. He spent months trapped in regret, replaying his mistakes and feeling like a failure. One day, while scrolling through social media, David came across a video on meditation. Skeptical but desperate for relief, he decided to give it a try. His first few attempts were frustrating, his mind felt chaotic, and he couldn't focus. But something about the practice intrigued him, so he persisted. Over time, he began to notice small changes. He felt less overwhelmed by his thoughts, and moments of calm started to emerge. David then encountered the teachings of the Buddha, particularly the principle of Anicca. For the first time, he understood that his financial loss, while painful, was not permanent. He realized that his suffering was amplified by his clinging to the idea of who he used to be. Inspired by this insight, David started rebuilding his life, this time with a focus on balance and mindfulness. He began volunteering, deepening his meditation practice, and reconnecting with his loved ones. Today, David credits his mindfulness journey with not only helping him heal but also giving his life a new sense of purpose. Living in the present moment is a central tenet of Buddhist philosophy. The Buddha taught that the present is the only moment we truly have. The past is gone, and the future has not yet arrived. By anchoring ourselves in the present, we can create a life that is free from the burdens of regret and the anxieties of what is to come. When you focus on the present moment, you can actively shape your future and reinterpret your past. For example, if you've made mistakes in the past, choosing to act with kindness and wisdom today can help create a narrative of redemption. Similarly, when you focus on gratitude and positivity in the present, the pain of past experiences can soften, as your mind begins to emphasize the good over the bad. Consider someone recovering from a difficult breakup. By practicing mindfulness and living in the present, they can begin to notice small joys of beautiful sunset, a kind word from a friend, or the satisfaction of completing a task. Over time, these positive moments accumulate, creating a more balanced perspective on life. Here are some practical exercises for living in the present. 1. Breathing technique for grounding. Sit in a comfortable position and close your eyes. Take a deep breath in, counting to 4. Hold for 4 counts, then exhale slowly for 6 counts. Repeat for 5 minutes, focusing entirely on the sensation of your breath. This simple practice helps anchor your awareness in the present and calms the mind. 2. Mindful walking. Go for a walk, ideally in nature. Pay attention to the sensations of your feet touching the ground, the sound of birds, the rustling of leaves, or the feel of the wind on your skin. When your mind drifts, gently bring it back to these sensory experiences. 3. Gratitude reflection. At the end of each day, write down 3 things you are grateful for in the present moment. Reflect on how these positive experiences make you feel. This practice shifts your focus from what's missing or painful to what is abundant and joyful. The mind has an incredible capacity for healing when we approach it with mindfulness and compassion. By observing our thoughts without attachment, embracing the impermanence of all experiences, and grounding ourselves in the present moment, we can transcend pain and regret. Remember this: the past is a teacher, not a prison. Through the lens of Buddhism, we learn that no matter how heavy our burdens may feel, they are not permanent. By choosing to focus on the present moment, we open the door to healing, peace, and a brighter future. Take inspiration from Angulimala's journey, a man who turned his life around completely, proving that no matter how troubled our past may be, we all have the power to change. His story reminds us that our mistakes don't define us, our actions in the present do. Now it's your turn. Take the first step by practicing mindfulness daily and reflecting on the lessons we've discussed today. If this resonates with you, share your thoughts or your own journey in the comments below. We'd love to hear from you. May the wisdom of the Buddha guide you, and may you find peace in every breath and joy in every moment. Until we meet again on Buddha's Odyssey, stay mindful, stay inspired, and remember, your best life starts in the present.